I started Multidots with $200. At this moment, we are somewhere around $4 million revenue. Our team size is 110. The biggest learning of my life from that experience was that when you are starting something new, act first and think later. The one thing that I always remind myself that all the knowledge and wisdom of the world is just one question away. I realized that all the problems of our life, business, or personal life, the solution of all those problems are in the book. That's already in some book written. If I want to be productive, be in the familiar environment, because you can't be productive in a new environment because you will be distracted. Correct. If you want to be creative, if you want to have the creative flow, that's when you go to a new environment. But I have seen founders who does not know how to code, but they have still been running and managing very successful tech companies. I'm still confident at this day, which is if you focus on the people and productivity, if you focus on these two things, profit will take care of on its own.
Hi guys, welcome to Website Learners Startup Spotlight. So in this series, we are interviewing all the top entrepreneurs in the world and then sharing their stories with you. This is episode 2, and today we have a new guest known as Anil Gupta. So he's the founder of MultiDots, which is doing 7 figures in revenue. Okay, so let's hear from Anil. So welcome Anil, welcome to Website Learners Entrepreneurs Spotlight. Let's start first. We would like to start with telling a little bit about your background and then how you got started into entrepreneurship.
Sure. So I grew up in a place called Bhavnagar in India. It's a part of Gujarat. I had a very challenging childhood because we grew up in a slum. I've seen people robbing and murdering and all sort of crime that you can imagine. But I've been lucky enough to go to the school and college. And I think that was my turning point of my life that helped me shape the future.
Let's say for the audience who doesn't know about you, could you tell more about your company and what it does?
Sure. I'm a CEO and co-founder of a company called Multidots. We have been in the business for the last 14 years. So Multidots is enterprise level WordPress customization and migrations. I started Multidots with $200. At this moment, we are somewhere around $4 million revenue. Our team size is 110. So same thing, we started it too, just me and my business partner. So our growth has been amazing.
How did you find your business partner? Is he still working with you?
Yeah. So his name is Aslam Multani. He lives in Canada now. He just moved to Canada last year. He's a CTO of MultiDots. And Aslam and I, we have been school friends. So we met when on 8th grade. So from 8th grade to 12th grade, we were in the same school time. At that time, we were not that close, but after we finished the high school and we went to the same college, and that's where we became good friends.
Okay. Can you talk about initially what was the projects that you worked on?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I'm glad that you asked. Aslam and I, we were both in a first year of our college. End of the first year, during the first year vacation, summer vacation, one of our professor, he suggested that, hey, this is this open source technology, Linux and PHP and all that. So I want to bring that into this college and want organizations to take benefit of it over the licensed or closed softwares. So he started this as an experiment. So he invited a bunch of students, college kids, so it's like to join him and be a part of it. We both joined that. We called it a Linux group in our college. So there was a Linux group and we would just try and install different Linux operating systems, set up a web server and things like that. So that was our summer vacation, and when summer vacation ended, we were into the second year of our college. And my one situation I had was that my dad, my family, financially we were struggling. So education from first grade to 12th grade was free because it was a public school. But college is not free in India. So you have to pay for the college fee. So my dad told me in the very beginning that, hey, I can only support up to first year, but from the second year onwards, I don't think so that I will have the financial, because it was a little bit expensive, not that expensive compared to now, but for my family, it was expensive. And when I said expensive, I'm still talking about less than $500, like 20,000 rupees, Indian rupees, less than $500. But it was still very expensive for my parents. All right. So I need to find a part-time job so that I can pay for my second and third year college fee. So I decided to sell handset. So if you know, the Tata walkie-talkie phones were at the time were getting very popular. One of my friends is like, hey, this company, if you sell this Tata walkie-talkie phone house to house, and then for each phone, you will make some commission and they will also pay you like 1,000 rupees or something like that for each month. So I was like, all right, so I think that sounds good. So I signed up for that and that job. And because of that, I stopped going to this Linux group because after my college earlier, I used to be a part of this Linux group, but then I had to go and take on this job. So then my professor, he noticed that and he asked me, he's like, why you are not coming to our group? And I told him about that. Hey, I need to get money for my second year and third year. And so I got this part-time job. He was the one who encouraged me. He's like, this job is not going to support what you are studying and what you want to be. So I'm not against that. You should do a part-time job, but instead of selling phones, why don't you get a job as a developer? So like the skill that you already have, like PHP and coding skill. So get a job in that. So that will also support what you are studying and will be more sustainable. So with that inspiration, I started looking for a part-time job in my town. And luckily I found one company who was looking for PHP developer. And at that time, there were no PHP developer in that town because PHP in open source very new. So there was not that many people who knew PHP. So I went to this company and gave an interview and then I got selected. And yeah, so that was my first job. So I started working from the second year of my college and I worked in that company for 2 years, second and third year of my college. And it's interesting that they asked me like, how much am I expecting as a salary for the job? And I told them like, I just want you to pay my college fee. That's what I'm expecting. And I don't know what else I need at that moment. So yeah, so that was my deal with them. So they were paying for my college fee and I was working in that company as a PHP developer for 2 years.
So was that part-time?
So technically, I think anything that you will call part-time probably will be less than 4 or 5 hours, but I was working actually in this company for 8 hours. So more than 8 hours. So
after college?
It was after college, yeah. But I was still working. So my college was from morning 7 to 2. And I was working in this company from 3 to 10.
Okay. And you mentioned you found a job in your town itself. So which town is that? Where are you from?
Bhavnagar.
Bhavnagar.
It's in Gujarat state. So it's closer, like I think somewhere around 200 kilometers from Ahmedabad.
Okay. And what kind of company was it? And what was your work in the company?
So the company, they were building web applications for colleges and educational institutes. I was the first employee in that company. So there were 2 founders and I was the first employee. So I was basically in charge of writing code, but on top of that, doing the technical analysis, the customer support. So basically I was doing everything in that company. And I would also go to the colleges and meet the professor and collect their requirements, understand what they want in their software. And then I will also write the code for that website.
What was your experience like working for that company? What do you think you got out of it?
A lot, actually. In fact, I would give a lot of credit to that company and my experience in that company. And which is that in the beginning, while I was working in that company, it gave me an idea and experience of trying different, So at that moment, I think I did the technical requirement gathering and sales and customer support, coding. And then at some point, the company also gave me an opportunity. It's like, hey, you are the only one person in the company. Don't you want to hire a few more team members? I was like, yeah, of course, that will be great. And then when they were ready to scale, they asked me, like, all right, then you are in charge of hiring. So then I started put out the job openings and I was taking the interviews. And when we had a couple of team members, I started to playing the role of an HR and team leader. So I think there was a lot that I learned in that company about in the very early stage of my life and career. that not like setting up any boundaries that what I should do and what I should not. And I think that is something that's very important whenever we start anything new, that we should be open to all and then we pick a lane. So a lot of time what happens, like we pay too much attention of, oh, what should I do? And then we don't take an action. But I think the biggest learning of my life from that experience was that when we are starting something new or when we are beginning something new, act first and think later.
So what happened after that? You were working for 2 years, and how did it transition from there?
Yeah. One little thing that before I move on, when I started to hire in that company, I asked all my next group members and my current business partner, Aslam Multani. So he actually was the first employee in that company after me. So that's how we both started working together. So we both were basically running the whole company for 2 years. And that's how I knew that like our friendship and partnership is something that can go further from that job. But then coming back to once I finished my college, like 3 years of my college, and I realized that in that town, there wasn't any. So me and my business partner, Aslam, we both were the only kids probably in the town who knew PHP that well. So there was one thing that kind of bothering me because I wanted to work with people or environment where I can learn more and learn and get inspired from. And so that was the motivation where I decided that, all right, I think I need to get a different job where I can learn more. And so that's where I started looking for few companies in Ahmedabad, because at that time, Ahmedabad was big city and there were like a lot of tech companies there. And so I interviewed in few companies, and that's where I realized, okay, now I think it's time where I need to move out from this small town and go to Ahmedabad, where I can be around people who are much more talented and experienced than me and Aslam. So yeah, so then we moved to Ahmedabad, and that's where we got our second job.
Okay. And what was the second job? And did both of you move together? Or?
Yeah. So then Aslam and I, we both moved to Ahmedabad. We were a roommate, so we stayed together. And then the first company was also where we both applied and we both got selected. And so we both were working in the same company. We were working in a different team. So he was in a different team and I was in a different team. But yeah, we both were web developer. So we both were in charge of writing code for different web-based projects.
What happened from there? How from there till your first entrepreneurship, your first company? What was the journey towards that?
Yeah. So I worked in that company for a year or so, like less than a year. And then I decided to move on. And then I went to another company and worked in that company for 2 years. I liked the second company in Ahmedabad that I joined much better. And I wanted to actually stay in that company longer. But it was around 2009 when I think there was a lot going on, market recession and things like that. So that company, my last company where I worked, I was a team leader and I was managing a team of, I think, 15 to 20 developers. So that company had some financial struggle and things like that. So they decided to actually lay off very large team members of the company. And basically they decided to shut it down, their Ahmedabad office branch. And yeah, so that's how in 2009, I got fired and along with all my team. And so that was, I think, a moment where, in fact, before that, I kept telling Aslam and all my roommates and friends that I want to start my own company one day, but I did not, I didn't find maybe right time or right a moment. So when I got fired from that company, I applied in few other companies and I got selected on a different role and like much higher salary and all that. But I was still inside me. Like from all the 3 different companies that I worked, one thing I noticed that I was willing to work hard and give my best. Asma was willing to work hard and give his best. But despite that, and there were several other employees who were also had a very good intention and to grow themselves and grow the company. But for some reason, our past companies, they were not able to utilize our full potential. We were limited by the company's culture, politics, or whatever we call it. But we found that we were limited and we were not encouraged to utilize our 100% potential. And yeah, that was like became a motivation for me that it's not just me and Aslam, but pretty much in all the company, that was like environment where they were not utilizing the 100% potential of the team member. And that became my motivation. And I thought, all right, if I want to change this, I need to start my own company. And then I will have a full control on how the company culture should be and how all those challenges that me and Aslam, we have been facing in our previous company, how we can change that. Because we both had a developer mindset and we knew what it feels like as a developer and what we struggle, what we want to do and things like that. So yeah, that became a motivation in 2009 that I had a job offer, very good job offer, and I decided to turn it down and start Multidots.
So the second company where you really liked the environment and you led a team of people, what kind of company it was, and was it very similar to what you started then later, providing service to clients?
Yeah. So both my companies were into more building websites for clients and businesses around the world.
And when you first started, how did you manage to get the clients? So it would be the toughest part for any new business.
It is. Actually, when you start the business, you don't have a brand, you don't have a portfolio, no one knows you. Yeah. So all those shiny, fancy things that we brag about on our website. Hey, we work with these clients and we have this big team and we have this cool office. You don't have any of that when you start, right? Yeah, I think that is very challenging, but also what I realized that there is always a good match. So for example, if you're starting, there's someone else who's also starting in that career. So for example, that's what my idea and my focus was that, hey, I know that we don't have a good portfolio. We don't have a large team. We don't have a fancy office and all of that. But there are also businesses who are like that, doesn't have a fancy offices, big team, big portfolio. So they're also starting. So that was something that I started focusing on to like solopreneurs or new entrepreneurs who doesn't have the decent, like big budget, the expectation of working with a company who is well established and they are willing to give a chance to small companies like us. So that's how that was my focus. And that's where I started looking for. So Upwork. So Upwork had another company that they acquired called elance.com. So I think that's where it was a marketplace where you find web-based projects and jobs and connect with the other developers. So yeah. So my first client was on Elance. So I found one, like just as I mentioned, like startup. He was an entrepreneur just starting his business. He didn't have a big budget. And also he's, hey, this is a tool I want to build and I'm willing to pay $500 for this. And yeah, so I looked into the job description and all, and I saw a lot of other beats where some companies like, hey, we have built tool like this and we have 50 people and we are 5-year-old company. So I saw all the beats and I was like, I can't compete any of that. I don't have anything at this moment where I can compete on all those different beats. So I was like, all right, so I can't compete on any of that and I don't want to lie about my company. So what is I can do here? What is my unique superpower in this situation? So I was like, Aslam and I, we both know how to code. So what we did was Aslam actually just that tool that he wanted to build overnight, like in a couple hours. So my beat was like, hey, the requirement that you are looking for, we already built. Here is the link. You can go and see that. And if you feel like this is what you wanted, then you can pay us. And if you feel like this is something that is not that you want, it's okay. We have. So I think when he looked into the article, he reached out. He's like, hey, I love that everyone else was just talking about that, how good they are and all that, but you actually built the tool. And I mean, we didn't build the whole thing, but we built a part of the tool so that he can see that we understood his requirement. And also we have the right skill to build what he is looking for. Yeah. So then he hired us. He was like, I love you guys because you guys have built and showed me something. And so that was our first client in the project. And that was like our approach going forward for the first year, where most of the times what we will do is we will see the requirements and we will build a prototype or a mockup or something. And that will show them like, hey, what we are looking, because I think that's the best way to explain whether we have understood the requirements or whether we have a right skill, because we didn't have anything else to showcase at that time. So we did that for the first year and first, I think 5 to 10 customers. And then gradually, once we have good portfolio, we started to present that more and then do less work in the beginning, but more we still do that nowadays. Like we still provide like a working prototype or something, but now we do a little bit more sophisticated and efficient way.
Understood. So I can see how even if I was a client and someone gives me the prototype instantly, that would really gain my attention. And I would prefer them over the other ones. So they are more excited and ready for the job.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. So that looks like the starting point for the business. So how it grew from there?
Yeah. So for the first year, I didn't mention one another thing that I think in the first year, it was just me. So I lost my job. So I was working full time, but I didn't have any employees. I was working with Aslam and a couple of my other friends as a freelancer. So Aslam actually joined the company after a few months and became a co-founder. But for the first 2 months, I continued to do this, find the project, and we'll get it done by Aslam and a couple of other friends and roommates. So that was our first few months. I think 3 or 4 months we did like that. And then there was a confidence where it was like, oh, now we are getting a good workflow and things like that. So that's when I started hiring full time. So Aslam became a full time employee and co-founder, a couple of other friends that I knew well. So they also joined MultiDots as a full time. So for the first 6 months, I hired from a close friend circle. And then, so I think from there, business grew. And then end of the first year, we were profitable and we had a decent profit and decent revenue. And I was much more energized and encouraged that, oh, wow, this is a cool idea. And people loved our company. So then, since then, we started growing. And I think, end of the first year, we were a team of somewhere around 10 to 15.
Yeah. Okay. And before you started hiring, did you already have the contracts in place with the clients that you get recurring revenue from them? Usually web development is like a one-time job, right?
No. So answer is we did not have any solid contract or a long-term contract. But one thing I knew in the entrepreneur space that when we are running a business and organization, you will never have a perfect moment. So you will never have right amount of client and right amount of team. You will never have right amount of the cash flow and expenses, right? So it's more like a balancing act, and it's something that you have to constantly juggle. So it's like those balls that you can keep just like, all right, so right now it's customers that we need to focus on. And then customer is on the air, focusing on hiring and then hiring. So I think it's a ball that you keep juggling. And so that was something that I focused on. I knew that I'm starting a business, and in the business, things will, sometimes I'll have a client, sometimes I will not have a client. Sometimes I will have more clients and less employees. Sometimes I'll have more employee and less client. So I didn't pay actually much attention to that. I always was continue scaling the business as a business group. If I have a 15 team member, 20 team member, I will focus more on finding the right amount of client for them. Once I have the right amount of client, I'll start focus on hiring. So they both continue to grow just like that, juggling, like sometimes I focus on the client and then the employees and vice versa.
Okay. Understood. In that case, it would be like the profit or loss would be also changing, right? Like when you have a good number of clients, you would see a good profit and it could keep changing, right?
Yeah, it is true. And one thing I would say is that I did not pay actually any attention on the profit, to be very honest with you. My one thing, I don't know how, but I was very confident about, and I'm still confident at this day, which is if you focus on the people and productivity, these are the two things. If you focus on these two things, profit will take care of on its own. And I think that's where my focus was, and it's still at this day in MultiDots, where we always try to see that, all right, people in the sense like client and our employees. So like making sure that we are working with the right people and we are productive. So we are not wasting our time and energy into anything. So as long as you are focusing on those two things, the profit will take care. And this has been the situation for last 14 years. We did not have any single year where we had a loss. So we were always, yes, our profit might change. In some few years, it might be more, and few years it will be thin, but we were profitable, and we have been profitable for last 14 years.
Okay. So let's move on. So when you first started your own company, what was the biggest challenge that you faced?
I think it would be the same that I said earlier about that we didn't have, when I started MultiDots, we did not have any big client portfolio or like team or infrastructure. So attracting both client and employees, because it's also the employee as well, right? Like when we have to hire, they would also look for a nice office, nice package, and an established company. So I think that would be probably the same challenge as other businesses who are starting up, that in the beginning, you do not have that many credentials that you can brag about, that you can put forward. So yeah, so that was, I think, the big challenge in that moment. Despite that, to continue to attract both customers and employees.
Okay. And for people who are looking to start a company, so the company you started is very much dependent on your knowledge on coding. Wouldn't you say that?
It was useful, but I would not say that it was dependent on that. Yeah.
But if you didn't know coding and the PHP that you had learned before, you would not have started this company, right?
That is true. Yeah. So if I would not, yeah, but that's, I think, my individual choice. But I have seen founders who does not know how to code, but they have still been running and managing very successful tech companies. So that is why I would not say that's not possible. But yeah, for my case, I wanted to do something that I can be involved and I understand. I didn't want it to just do something where I doesn't know. And just that's what was my reason. I didn't want it to do this for the money, but my first goal was to do something which I enjoy, and I enjoy doing with like-minded people.
Right. So you mentioned you started with the freelancing companies. So is that still how you get the clients, or did you expand that into more ways after you started?
It changed a lot. So yes, in the first few years of MultiDots, we were relying a lot on this kind of like marketplace and like Elance and Upwork. Now we are out of that. So in the last 5 years, we have built our own, the marketing and sales channel and partnerships and things like that. So now we are focusing more on, because now we have the customer portfolios and all those credentials. So now the challenge and the solution are different. So now we are focusing more on connecting with these enterprises, more on one-on-one basis. So that's where we decided that we need to level up our marketing approach. And that was one reason in 2017, we decided to have our first US office. So I moved here in 2019 for that reason, because in order to attract enterprise customers and things like that, we also need to have a different approach, like meeting them more in person, connecting with them through the conferences and networking events, and continue to build that relationship. So with that mindset, we opened our US office. We have a small team here, customer facing team here, who also interact with our prospects and existing customers.
Understood. So now you're in much better position compared to the before. So what kind of challenge do you face in your business right now? And also, what are your current things that you're working on right now?
So yeah, it has been 14 years in the business, and the business grew from small team to like around 117 or 16 we are right now. And yeah, I think at this stage, the biggest, I would not say the challenge, but more focus is how we scale from here, how we scale and grow from here. But also one thing that I think we took up as a challenge is in MultiDots, we shared, Aslam and I, as a founder, we told everyone that, yeah, we want to grow, but we want to grow peacefully. So peaceful growth is something that we are looking for, not a stressful growth, because there was one reason why Aslam and I started company that we wanted to utilize our 100% potential, but we also wanted to do it in a more sustainable way. So we didn't want to just keep working in a way where our health and life, everything gets compromised. So doing the peaceful growth is something that is very hard because, yeah, in order to grow, I think the traditional mindset and definition is that, yeah, you need to work hard, you need to hustle, and you have to make some wild decisions and things like that. So that's what we are right now navigating to, like designing a process or strategy which help us to achieve a peaceful growth.
Understood. So the word peaceful, that seems to be very much in line with me as well. You don't want to do a lot and be stressed to keep that going. And then compared to before, like when you were just a small team, so you have an eye on each of your clients' product and what you deliver to them. But as you grow to a big team, 110, how do you ensure that the team is providing the same level of quality that you have in mind?
So I think answer to that question is, in a way, it's very simple, but sometimes still it's hard to accept that. So I will say that this way, that what is your favorite brand?
Apple?
Apple?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the Apple, that how the scale that they are, right? Like how large they are and how big their market is and all of that. But despite that, when Apple introduced in like first computer or second computer in 19, and today their product quality and all of that is still top notch. In fact, getting better, right? So even, and the Steve Jobs as a founder, he is not anymore. It's still the company actually continue to produce the same level of product and the quality. So I think just like that in MultiDots as well, we build and relied that the right kind of process and making sure that we have the right people on the bus. So focusing on the people and the process is something we have been utilizing in order to be consistent with that. And as a founder, it's very hard. As founder, when we are involved too much into everything and when we have to step back a little bit, it can be hard. And it was hard for me 5-6 years ago when I was pretty much in charge of everything. But slowly I realized that's not sustainable. And yeah, so from that moment, I started to focusing on few things. The first is creating the right kind of playbook. So we have a different playbooks and handbooks for the different teams and the processes, making sure as a founder that whatever is important for me, like quality or the different aspect of the customer services, I should document that, write it down. So I started doing that. I started writing the handbooks and then shared that with my leadership team. And so that was my second focus, to make sure that the people that I hire and retain, they understand and connect with this vision. And third, and the most important thing is training and mentoring. So nowadays, I still connect with the entire leadership team, continue to share our vision, culture, and expectations, plus also make sure that they are also growing with me. So whenever I'm learning something new, I share with them. We call them growth workshops. So we have that every month where I would share whatever the new things that I'm learning and continue to remind them again about our goal, our focus, our values. And yeah, so I think that's what we have been doing in order to make sure that without my much day-to-day involvement, company is still functioning to the same quality level.
Understood. I think the two things you mentioned are very important. So the first thing you mentioned was preparing workflows or the playbooks, as you said, and then making sure the right people are given those playbooks. So I think those two are the key to solve the issue.
Yeah.
Okay. And other than those two, what is there any other thing that you would attribute to your success?
One thing that I would say probably why we are successful today is our ability to learn and grow. Yeah. So that's something that I've been doing consistently, and my team has also been doing consistently, where we spend a lot of time in learning, so reading books or signing up the different skill development, skill building course and things like that. So taking care of that personal growth has something that I think is a big dividend paid off in the business as well.
Understood. Okay. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would have done differently when you started?
I would say pretty much all the things that we did in the beginning, there was all necessary after running the business for 14 years. One thing I would say is as a founder or as an entrepreneur, one thing I did not know, which I know now, which is as an entrepreneur or founder, we all are athletes. So we have to have that mindset that our health, physical and mental health, is something that's very crucial for the business. I did not pay that attention. I thought, oh, I'm just working on a computer and that's what. And I was young, so I didn't pay that. But it's like from the day one or from now, that having that athlete mindset that we are athlete as entrepreneurs are athlete. It's not something that only sportsmen and women who actually do the physical, has the physical profession. They only need to train their body and mind. But it is also very true for entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, we are athlete and we have to do everything possible to train our body and mind to be in the best shape.
Okay. That's a good point, because only when your body is very good, you come up with the best ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of routines, morning routines or any practices that you do every day that you think has been most helpful to you?
Yeah. So I think routine is very important for everyone, and it has played a very big role in my personal as well as business growth. It is like the way we have been growing both professionally and personally has changed a lot since I started to focusing on building routine. So my current routine is I start my day around 5 a.m. So I get up around 4:45, start my day at 5. First 2 hours is my personal growth time. So that's where like the athlete mindset comes into the picture. So from 5 to 7, I don't take any meetings or anything like that, but it's more I go on a walk, listen to a motivational podcast or something. I'll do some reading, so read a book, do yoga or meditation, but basically taking care of my mindset, health set, heart set, and soul set. So these are the 4 different pillars of everyone that needs to be taken care. So that's what my first priority is. For first 2 hours of my day goes there. From 7 to 8, that's first hour is my big win. So every day before, I would always put this hour 7 to 8, like first hour, as what is the most important thing that I need to do today that needs to be done, that needs my prime focus and prime attention. So I call them as a big wins. So those are the things, if I get it done the day, my day will be successful. So usually it's 2 to 3 items that I would put it in this hour. And like it might be a planning, defining a strategy, or making an important decision. So that's my big win, 7 to 8. And from 8 to 12, that's where I take the team meetings, because I'm now in a central time zone and my team is in India and other part of the world. So it's like more something where I would make sure that I'm available for them. So from 8 to 12 is my meeting times plus work times and all. 12 o'clock is from 12 to 2, around that time, is my lunch and nap time. So nap has been one of my secret energy weapon that I've been so helpful, because I start my day early in the morning. So my energy and body will start getting tired. So after my lunch, I'll take a 15 to 30-minute nap, a quick power nap. And then, I would feel much better. It feels like a different day once you take a nap. So I'll get up after my nap. I will go to maybe a coffee shop, or I have an office here. So I would walk to office, or basically work somewhere outside home. So from morning until my nap time, I will be at home. And then after my nap, I'll go and work from somewhere like a coffee shop or like a different place. And during that time, it's all my small things. So usually I don't respond to email or like small Like we use Basecamp for our daily task, so all those little things like calling someone or responding to an email or reviewing a document or something, that is all happens between the 2 to 4 during those hours. So that's where I respond to all the different tasks and all that. And then 4 is usually my time where I finish my day, my work routine. And then from 4 to 6, I would do either go on a bike ride or listen to a podcast or audiobook. Sometimes I would do yoga around that time. And so that's that. And then from 6 to 9 is dinner and chill times. I would watch a Netflix, like some kind of show or something. And then around 9, I would start getting ready to bed. So I will be in the bed reading. I read 15 to 20 minutes before I go to bed. And around between 9:30 to 10, I'll sleep.
So that was like very good tip that you had there. Half a day at home and then half a day working outside. So during COVID, when working from home, it feels like too monotonous to be at home all the time. So that was an interesting mix between the two places.
Yeah. And I think it's good for the creativity as well, because once you change, then as soon as you expose yourself to a new environment, I've seen a lot of time that because from wherever the place which is comfortable to you, you can be much more like focused. But if you want some creative thinking, you need to go into a different environment, because that's where your mind actually becomes more creative. So that's my hack is that if I want to be productive, be in the familiar environment, because you can't be productive in a new environment because you will be distracted. Correct. If you want to be creative, if you want to have the creative flow, that's when you go to a new environment. Yeah.
That's a great tip. Okay. And so I looked at the 13 lessons learned article that you have written. So I have some points there. I think you can give some more explanation on it. So let me read it out from your blog. So the first one was strive to be a specialist and not a generalist. And in your blog, you had talked about initially in Multidots, you had worked on multiple platforms, and then eventually you decided to stick with just WordPress, and then that gave you a good result. Yeah. So is there anything else apart from that where this principle has helped you?
Yeah. I'll give a little bit idea about that principle, a rule, which is that a lot of time what happens is, as I mentioned, like when you're starting something new in the beginning, it's okay to try different things. But at some point, in order to grow and scale, and especially the peaceful growth will come when we are focused in few things rather than trying 100 different things. So that is where that principle comes into the picture, that is a reminder to entrepreneur that focus on being a specialist, not a generalist, because that's where you will have a peaceful growth. And in other areas, I would say the one place where we applied that rule was that, as I mentioned in my blog as well, that when we started Multidots in 2009, we have been focusing on like mobile applications and Magentos and Drupal and like all the different kind of CMSs and a web platform. At some point, we also started to offering .NET services and things like that. And even from the customer perspective, we were like focusing on all sort of customer, like small to large, healthcare to automobile, everything. And since we started applying this formula, now we are focused only on WordPress. So that had become our specialist. But within the WordPress, like in terms of the client, we are now becoming a little bit more focused on that, like rather than serving and working with 15 different types of customers. Now we narrowed down that list to 5. Okay, these are the 5 industry and customer type that we want to work on. Marketing channels, earlier we were like everywhere, trying whenever like my marketing team suggests me, we should actually promote our business here. We should promote our business here. And then I would challenge them. All right, that's 10 different places where we are trying to promote our business. Pick only 3. I know that other 7 are working or will be working, but just pick the 3 and let's make these 3 work better and be focused on that. So that has been our approach into pretty much like whenever we make a new decision, we always try to see that, all right, where can be specialist? Where is our superpower? So apply it there.
Understood. And the next principle you had mentioned is less is more. So could you expand on that?
Yeah. So another thing that I learned growing MultiDots that quantity, like a lot of time what we like, oh, more team members, more clients, more projects is where the growth is. That's how you grow and scale your business. So I realized that I'll give you just one quick number that before 2017, specifically 2016 year, we had a team size of 156. At the time, we had a client somewhere around 95 or 98. And in 2020, we had team size of 65 to 70. Client size somewhere around 35 to 40. So more than half the client and more than half the team size. Still, our revenue and profit, they both were better and higher than 2016. That's what I learned, that a lot of time it's not the quantity that you need to focus on. The goal should not be more. So the goal should be how we can create a great impact with a small team size, a small efforts, rather than that a big efforts. And yeah, so that's something that we learned, that we want to be great. We don't want to be big. And in order to be that, you need to think from this. I think Steve Jobs coined this term, less is more. So I think that's something that we try to apply that philosophy into all of our decisions. So being simple, being clear is something that's also the less is more applies to.
Understood. And the other principle was long-term goals require patience and persistence. What are some of the things that you spent a long time on and give you good results?
Yeah, I would say two things. First is in 2016, when we were like offering a lot of different services in MultiDots, I think around that time, we learned about WordPress VIP Partnership program. And it was like very exclusive and small, but it was something that when you become a WordPress VIP partner, it means that you are actually standing out in the crowd. So basically you are it's because in the WordPress ecosystem, there is no enterprise partnership like Salesforce or Oracle or Microsoft, where they have like different partnership tiers. And once you have that, it means that you qualify and prove yourself as a bit more higher end organization or team. So we learned about WordPress VIP, and we saw that, oh, this is a cool and a program that if MultiDots is officially be a part of this program, then we can raise our overall credentials and reputation. At that time in 2016, like MultiDots was just doing a very little bit of WordPress, but we were like not WordPress focused company. So dreaming and thinking about becoming a WordPress VIP partner, it was a very exclusive program. So there was no any way where you can apply from that on our website. So basically the criteria was that, you need to be a strong contributor in WordPress community. So in WordPress community, you need to make your name, you need to do more higher enterprise level projects and clients and things like that. And then you will have a chance to apply for the WordPress VIP partnership. So it was very exclusive and hard to get into it. So yeah, I told my team that vision, hey, we want to become a WordPress VIP partner. And in order to do that, it was a very long-term goal. So it wasn't something that you can just apply today and you get the results in 6 months. Even before application, there was like 3 years of preparation work. So from 2016, we started working on, 2 years, 2016, 2017. For 2 years, we just worked on preparing ourselves to apply. So it was like a lot of the preparation work. So we put on a lot of efforts, and you don't see the results because you don't know what's going to happen, even if they will accept our application or not. So I think that was the thing, that for the 3 years, we had that vision. We didn't know that none of us had the confidence that we will qualify for that, but we stayed persistent on our efforts.
Things that you had to do for it.
Was that?
So you said you had to prepare for it, right? So what are the things that you did to prepare actually?
Yeah. So I think the first important thing is that we have been using the WordPress platform, but we were not actually active in the WordPress community. So like within the WordPress community, we need, as a part of the WordPress VIP or any big enterprise program, they need to know that, you are an active player in the ecosystem.
So you mean contributing to the open source code of WordPress?
Correct. So contributing to the open source, maybe actively speaking to the different WordPress conferences. So things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that was an example there, like where we applied that principle. And that was a big reminder for us. And when we became WordPress VIP partner in 2019, it was a huge success and something that all of our team members felt that, wow, this felt almost impossible at that time that we will actually be part of this. And 3 years later, we are WordPress VIP partner. And yeah, so I think that was a great reminder for us that any long-term goal, if you stay consistent and persistent, and then it will turn up into the result.
So you had mentioned that during COVID, your business took a hit. So what happened there and how you have recovered from it?
Yeah. So actually, it was a little bit before the COVID. We were into transitioning from this big 150 employee company to focusing more on the WordPress. So we were in the transition from generalist to specialist. And during this time, what happened was that we had to make a lot of tough decisions. Like we had to let some clients go. We had to let some team go. And so the whole transition was painful, stressful. That was the phase which was hard to moving this big, large company and completely different direction to a new direction. So yeah, that was something that we dealt with around that.
So what was the new direction that you took?
So we basically had to shut down our mobile apps, .NET, so many different things that we were doing, shut down all those teams and offering. And at the time we had somewhere around 95 customers. So we had to let a lot of customers go. Our team size was 160 or 56 around that time. So we had to let half of the team go. Yeah. So that was the transition.
Okay. And so you had mentioned in the blog that one of the biggest obstacles to attaining the desired success is our own blind spots, inefficiencies, and inability to learn and grow. Could you give examples of this? So you're saying the biggest problem that is stopping your growth is yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you need to focus on that. And once you fix that, you can grow. So could you explain that, how you discovered this?
Yeah. So yeah, I think a lot of time what happens when something goes wrong in our life or business, we always blame someone else or something else. So let's say, oh, it's competition, oh, it's market, oh, it's this person didn't do this. That's why we failed. From my personal experience and after talking to a lot of other entrepreneurs, what I learned is that everything like market, competition, someone else, all those different things, they might have some level of impact if something didn't go well, but a very big, very large portion of that relies on the individual attention and focus as well. Because we have seen again and again that we have seen on the president or prime minister level in country, we have seen CEO or leadership level in the big organization, that it's the same company, it's the same country, same people, nothing has changed. But just a new leader comes in and the way leaders see the vision, craft the strategy, the whole organization will be growing and the world will turn into a different thing. So that is where I learned that in everything that happens to me or my business, if there is something wrong, I need to first look into myself and what did I miss? What were my blind spot? And when I say the blind spot, because as an entrepreneur, and a lot of time, probably 95% of the time, it's not the bad intention. No one actually runs the business, especially on the founder or entrepreneur level. It's not an intention that, I want to fail. I want to have the worst profit of my life in this year. That's not the goal or intention that anyone actually goes into. even on the employee level as well. If a team leader or a project manager or a director, when they are working on their role and if they fail, it's not that they have a negative intention. So it's not that, but it's more on the blind spot. Analogy of the blind spot is when we are driving a car, like our vision is on the windshield, right? So this is our view, but there is like in the car, like you can see in the left mirror, right mirror, the rear mirror and the front. But then there is, despite all the mirrors and focus, there is still few spots that you're not able to see it. You have to get out of the car in order to see that blind spot. And so that is where that is what I call the blind spot. And that's something that as an entrepreneur or as an individual, we should always look for and see and help to get, because in order to see those blind spots, you need to take a help. So sometimes it's your business partner or maybe your family member or a good friend who will tell you, or you need to be open for that. Hey, tell me about my blind spot. What am I missing here? Listening to the feedback from your employees, your friends, your customers, and things like that. So I think, yeah, that's what my blind spot definition is. And a lot of time in my personal experience, I think the conclusion has always been that, oh, I could have avoided that situation or managed that situation if I would have paid attention to this thing. So that is where my actually learning comes out. Okay, next time I need to be a little bit more aware and educated about that thing.
And so coming back to the blog post, so there was one point here which says about reading books improved your quality of thoughts. So could you explain on that?
Yeah. So yeah, I think I did not read at all. Like growing up, I was not a book nerd. So first book that I picked up, I was 27 or 26 year, 27 or 28 year old. So that was the first time I actually picked up a book and finished it. Like book apart from my like academic books, textbooks. And one thing I really learned from the book is that each book has stories and lessons from the hundreds and hundreds of years of experiences from the people. So when it comes to, if you want to leverage someone else's experience and the knowledge, the definition, I had the definition that, I need to learn everything through the experiences, my own experiences. But then that was a very slow approach because it will take probably 5 or 10 lives for me to basically try and experiment everything and then learn from the experiences. So learning from the experiences is something which is slow, that the one experience can take years, but you can learn from someone else's experiences. So that is where the book actually come into the picture. And since I started reading books, I read a lot of different books like Steve Jobs' biography and Elon Musk's biography and Richard Branson's biography, autobiography. So when I started to read about these books of these successful entrepreneurs, leaders, or history makers, I learned a lot from their life and how they made different decisions into different situations of their work and life. So the more I started reading, I realized that all the problems of our life, business or personal life, the solution of all those problems are in the book. It's already in some book written. And so all those experiences that I'm going to learn from, they are already recorded in the books. So yeah, that's how when I started to reading books, it gave me a different perspective. It helped me learn about, oh wow, in this situation, this is how you can I could have also make a decision. So yeah, that's how I say it just expanded my perspective and my vision about the world, people, problems, and things like that.
Understood. Yeah. So I almost hear from every successful entrepreneur that book reading is like mandatory for them to grow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I would say that don't consider that book, because I've seen lot many times book reading is a hobby. Oh, book reading, people put it into book reading is my hobby. Yeah. So like, don't make it as a hobby, because hobby is something that for some reason it always gets the last priority. Just ask yourself, like anything that you will, oh, this is my hobby, probably you will be doing once in a year, right? Because the life other things takes priority. So that's why I say for myself and all my team members, I would always tell them, like, don't make book reading a hobby. Make book reading a habit. Make book reading a routine. So that's what I committed myself, that 30 minutes of reading every day. That's it. I don't want to make book reading a goal. I don't want to make book reading a hobby. I don't want to make book reading a thing that I want to do someday, sometime. It's just something that I need to read book 30 minutes every day. It needs to be a habit. And when I shared my routine, like the book reading was the part of like my routine. So that's it. Just make it a routine. And I did a math. And if you read 30 minutes a day, one page it's like 1 minute that takes it. So when you read 30 minutes, you're roughly reading 30 to maybe 20 pages in 30 minutes. Average book is somewhere around 200 to 300 pages. Average book. Some might be 100, some might be 500, but average is somewhere between 250 to 300 pages. So I did the math, like if you read 30 minutes every day for 365 days a year, you will end up reading somewhere between 30 to 40 books in a year.
So
that's what we need to focus on. Like you don't have to focus on, I want to read 10 books or 20 books. Just committing this 30 minutes every day, you will end up reading 30 to 40 books. And that has been my record. Like in the last 5 to 6 years, on an average, I have been reading in a year, I end up reading 30 to 40 books a year.
Yeah. Is there any book that you would recommend, like something which has really impacted your life or your business?
Yeah, I would say Good to Great from Jim Collins. I think it's a really good book, especially for the business strategy and how you should think about a business. I learned a lot of rules and principles from that book.
Okay.
For the business, I would suggest that book. And for the personal growth, I would suggest 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma.
Okay. So moving on. So we have last couple of questions. So recently there has been a lot of new announcements in the AI, new improvements in the AI. So what are your thoughts on AI and how it will change the industry or business and our life?
Yeah, AI is huge. Just like how the digital transformation happened with the computer, and then internet revolutionized the world through that. I think AI is that third big revolution and transition, that we are all going through. I know there are a lot of ethical arguments and questions that also needs to be addressed with the AI. But in general, I'm very optimistic and positive about the future of AI and how it will impact us and humanity. Because technology is always neutral. Technology doesn't have any side, good or bad side. It's we as a people, how we actually use that technology. We are not neutral. We always have a different side. So I think that's where the people are more dangerous than technology. On my level, I would say I look AI as a productivity tool. So I think it will enhance the productivity of everyone. We all, whether professionals, entrepreneurs, we all can enhance overall productivity utilizing the AI tools. So that's my outlook is.
Okay. So is there anything that you've implemented in your business which uses AI to improve your workflow or boost productivity? Any implementations you have done in your team?
Yeah. So we have started utilizing AI tools, specifically in the ChatGPT, and there are some other content creation too, like it helps. So I think the way we are right now leveraging the AI is to just make the things that we do better. So as the English is not our first language, and so a lot of our team members, when they write, they have like great ideas and thoughts in their head. But when it comes to putting that into the words, especially the engineers, they struggle a lot. So I think the AI is like a co-pilot so it helps them. So it's not like the AI is doing everything, but AI becomes a co-pilot. So their thoughts and ideas and think concepts that they have in their head, AI helps them to verbalize that. So I think that's how I've been encouraging my team to utilize that. So first is for that. So say even myself, like when I had to write something, maybe an email or something, like I would create a draft and share it with ChatGPT and ask this ChatGPT to make it better. And then ChatGPT will give me maybe a different 2 or 3 different versions. And then I'll maybe create a combination of that and we'll use something like that. So I think that's one thing that like whenever we are struggling with creative energy or things like that, and utilizing that. So creating and like making the content better is one way we are utilizing. And I utilize that as a research tool as well, just like Google search. So sometimes all these different tools like Google search and all, they are all built to make us productive. You can also go to all those different websites on your own and find the right website. It will take months or years, but Google does that job for you. When you do the right search term, Google helps you find the right tool that you need. So I think that's what I use ChatGPT and encourage everyone to use that, like AI tools, to find the information faster and in a more effective way so that you can make decisions so quicker.
And how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and the latest technologies in your industry?
Yeah, I subscribe to newsletters. I love reading email newsletters. PostDots does a very good job in WordPress community about summarizing all the big WordPress things happening. Podcast is another way where I stay also listen to some of the podcasts, and both related to business and not related to business. But that's also one way which helps me to continue to learn and stay connected. And third, I would say, attending the conferences. So I go to WordPress-based events and conferences and meetups. That's my another source where I continue to stay in touch with whatever is going on in this industry.
Okay. So in the last question, so for someone who is looking to start their entrepreneurship journey, what kind of tips do you have for them? Most of our audience, they are beginners into this. So they are looking to do something. They are looking to start an online business or any kind of a business. So what are the tips that you would give them?
I would say this. Two things actually. One is when you are a beginner or starting something new in the beginning, act first and think later. Because in the beginning, you don't have to be too perfect, because that actually slows down and we miss out a lot. So in the beginning, where you don't have a time issues, you don't have a brand issues, you don't have the reputation and all that issues. So then just try 100 different things. So act first and think later, and then see like which one actually has been more profitable, which has been something that is more effective. And then slowly move from generalist to specialist. But in the beginning, don't spend too much time perfecting or analyzing. So act first, think later on when you have gained the good experience and when you call yourself a little bit more successful or reputable. At that point, change the mindset. Then you think first and act later. So at that time, you need to think and question all the decisions, because then it will have a very big impact in your business if you end up spending time and energy into a wrong thing. So that's when in the beginning, act first and think later. And when you are experienced and later in your career or business, think first and act later. So that will be my first tip. And second is 1% better every day. James Clear, author of Atomic Habit, he said this thing that in order to, in business or individual, just focusing on that 1%, becoming 1% better every day through the learning and growth and all that. But just focusing rather than hefty goals and things like that. If you consistently focus on how I can make my business and myself better, 1% better than yesterday, I think that will compound over the time and it will create a very magical results.
Okay. It's a great tip. Thank you. And so we have reached the end of this session, and you can please tell the audience how they can find you, where they can learn more about you.
Yeah, I write a weekly newsletter on personal growth and personal transformation on my blog called anilg.substack.com. I'm on a Twitter and LinkedIn as well, where I write a lot of tips about personal growth and things like that. Gupta Anil G or Gupta Anil LG will be my Twitter or LinkedIn handle. And my business, you can look for multidots.com. That's where you will learn about all the 3 brands of Multidots.
Great. Thank you, Anil. Thanks a lot for sharing your valuable experience and knowledge. So it was great having you.
You're welcome, Shyam. And yeah, I had a great pleasure as well. Thanks for asking all those questions. The one thing that I always remind myself that all the knowledge and wisdom of the world is just one question away. So the moment, like the right question can unlock all the treasure and knowledge of the world. But yeah, you just need to ask the right question. I think you had really good quality questions today. And thanks for, bringing on all those questions.
Yes. Thank you, Anil.